Are we doomed as a species? Have we gone too far? Now, I've been around a lot of traditions around the world for a long period of time, and these are a couple of questions that often come up, particularly with a lot of well-known teachers and masters, and also in private settings. And there's been stories, particularly with Tibetan lamas and Tibetan monks, where some Tibetan lamas within the tradition, and I've seen this personally and I've heard these stories personally, where they believe we've gone too far. And actually this goes back a while as well. This goes back decades ago, where some Tibetan lamas believe that we've gone too far as a species and it's too late for us to turn this around, and so we should just focus on our spiritual practice and so forth and so on. It's a very controversial perspective, right, for a lot of people, particularly in this day and age where people are overly sensitive. But if you can keep a clear head and be objective, ask yourself those questions. Are we doomed? Have we gone too far? Now, some will say this is coming from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective. And we have to consider that as well, right? Like when we look at the atrocities that happened in Tibet during the Cultural Revolution, there is no wonder that some lamas and monks in general hold this view, because what happened was very terrible. The killing of monks and the displacement of a lot of Tibetans who relocated into northern India, including the Dalai Lama. And so you can see that maybe their view is a little bit influenced by what happened in their past, possibly. But I've heard it spoken about within that tradition, not even using that as a context, looking at it from a modern lens and looking at the state of mind within the world, the state of psychology within the world, and basically the state of consciousness. There's always been talk about a crisis in consciousness. We remember Jiddu Krishnamurti would speak always about the crisis of consciousness within humanity. And he was speaking about that back in the 30s. So in 2021, thank God Jiddu's not alive now. But when we look out in the world, we do see mass hypnosis, we see conflict and division everywhere, particularly based on superficial layers, physicality, beliefs. And it doesn't seem like people are ready to be mature and reconcile these differences and to understand each other. It doesn't really feel that that's the way. It feels like it's getting worse and worse, particularly due to social media. Now, I listened to an interesting discussion between Jonathan Haidt and Steven Pinker, and Steven Pinker is a proponent of that humanity is going in a positive direction, and he has some good data to suggest that. And you have to really consider what Steven's speaking about. But Steven uses a lot of data before this period of time and doesn't really include a lot of the damage that social media has produced. And so this is where Jonathan Haidt comes in. And Jonathan's got a wonderful book, The Coddling of the American Mind, where he gets into a lot of stats and that about social media, the damages, and so forth and so on, that I actually go into a lot in my upcoming books, Spiritual Freedom in the Digital Age. And so Jonathan rightly suggests to Steven that maybe he's not considering social media and the damages that it has caused, because what we see is a continued splintering of society into different factions where people cannot even listen to alternative knowledge. I get this a lot on the channel because I teach Eastern philosophy primarily. A lot of people get triggered because they come from different backgrounds and they can't listen objectively. It's just they are incapable of listening objectively without being triggered. And it's very strange, right? Because the trait of an intelligent person is to be able to listen objectively, and if they don't agree, it's best to move on or possibly suggest an oversight that someone may not have considered, but in a very polite and nice manner. Again, manners is something that's being cancelled in the modern world, which is who knows why. Being aggressive is more popular and more in vogue, which again may lead into why the Tibetans are right. Because if we are becoming more aggressive as opposed to being nice, that's a surefire sign that we're heading in the wrong direction. We can't listen to each other. So we just get aggressive, we shut other people down. Even though we come from different cultural backgrounds, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of differences and a lot of things to consider. And religion has been doing this for a long time, right? Where other religions try to undermine other religions due to their own doctrine, but then forget that they are just part of a cultural evolution as as the other group are. They're part of another cultural evolution. No one is right or wrong. They're different cultures, they're different cultural evolutions. And you shouldn't walk around undermining other cultures and that through your own lens. You should just be mature enough and accept that there are people who think differently. It's always been the way. So that was one of the conversations I had with some of the Tibetan monks, was they just couldn't understand that people don't understand that people just have sometimes different viewpoints. And there's no real need to get aggressive or argue about these things. You just need to accept it because it's always been that way and you will never be able to change it. And this again comes back to the identity, right? We're coming back to the identity because on a subjective level, we have our own personal agenda that we want to push on the world because it makes us feel comfortable if other people think the same as us. It's a survival mentality. This is how demographic swamping became a thing in the first place. Because when other cultures went to other places, they took their religions and their philosophies and they swamped the market, so to speak, and made other people from other cultures believe in what they believe, even if it conflicted with their culture. And then over time, slowly, generation after generation, demographic swamping takes place. And so demographic swamping and trying to get someone to think just like you think is a survival strategy. It's part of survival psychology. And on the spiritual path, we need to observe that and we need to eradicate that from our mind because we just have to realize and be an adult that some people think differently. There are different philosophies. There are different cultures. There are different religions. Everyone who watches my content are here for Eastern philosophy because we all enjoy it. Does that mean that there aren't great philosophies in the West? Of course, that's not what it means. It means that this is what we enjoy. It means that this is what we resonate with. And that's what they resonate with. There's no reason to draw a line in the sand and turn it into a battle. And so the Tibetan lamas and monks are, I think, correct with their concerns about humanity because I think we're coming up to a point where we can take it one or two ways, right? Where we look at, especially the digital landscape, and people are becoming very dissociative with the actual world, the real world, right? People are constantly like this. I don't understand it because I don't have a smartphone. I mean, the neck must blow out, right? Like you're always like this. Even walking, I have to dodge people a lot when I go for a walk around. And you become dissociative with the world. And I've noticed this within children. They lack an ability, in some sense, to communicate properly and to read facial cues. What is that going to look like when they become adults? That's what we need to be worried about because our success as a species has been our ability to read each other and to evolve with each other no matter what our beliefs are, our differing beliefs are. That has been our success as a species, not in isolating ourselves within this little world and then diving into a fake world called the digital world, which you are watching me now. It's all well and good to have this digital world, right? We can all communicate digitally and that's wonderful. But when it becomes an addiction and when we use it as a tool for violence and division, then it's a time that we need to reconsider its use. It's like saying to an alcoholic to keep drinking. It doesn't make sense. The alcoholic needs to get off the drink, go to an AA meeting, and to begin the process of disentangling themselves from this addiction they have to alcohol. Why are we not looking at digital media like that? Because digital media is the same. It's becoming an addiction and people can't function properly, obviously, in the modern world because they're aggressive to people. They have all of these distorted beliefs that have been influenced by social media or the media. And then they begin to play out those beliefs and act from those beliefs, but they're not theirs. And so then we lack the critical thinking skills to be just as we are and to observe the world from where we are without our conditioning and our beliefs that we've borrowed distort our reality. And so I just wanted to open this question up to everyone in the comment section because I think it's something that a lot of people actually don't consider because we get so busy in our own life that we don't really sit around and think, where are we going to be 50 years from now? What is the world going to look like? Is it good to dive into all of this technology? Or should we be reconnecting with each other in the real world? Should we be having proper conversations in the real world? Should we be spending more time in nature, more time reading books, more time investing into intelligence? Because I can tell you what, I know that you're watching me and I'm speaking to you here and we are invested in intelligence, right? And peace and harmony on this channel. But there's a lot of people in the world who are only attracted to entertainment and constantly feeding their mind full of garbage. And that's where a lot of problems begin, right? Because when you're constantly feeding your mind full of garbage, you are insulting your own intelligence, and you are becoming less intelligent actually, and unable to experience the world in a way where you're not looking through the lens of your beliefs. And so that's why I wanted to bring this up to you guys, because I know my audience are very invested on the spiritual path and have your faculties together. And so I want to open this question up. Do you think we are doomed? Have we gone too far? And if we've gone too far, how do you think we've gone too far? Or do you think actually that the future is bright? When we look at it, we can look at either or, right? Like when we go through evolution, we usually get to a precipice where we have to either evolve or die. And we always choose to evolve, right? So we might be coming up on that precipice right now where social media is pushing us to a point of mass psychosis where we need to choose sanity over insanity. And personally, I believe that's where we're coming up to. I'm optimistic of the future. I think that is a possibility. But we also have to consider what the Tibetan lamas and monks also mentioned, that it is possible that we have gone too far, and our best course of action for us is to just choose peace for our own personal life in the hope that that may influence others to walk the spiritual path together. Shanti, shanti, shanti.